Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew, Keith Johnson.
Sometimes hope is a choice.
And Alan Seiler.
Don't be rude. Of course I can fly it.
You guys remember Star Trek Strange New Worlds?
Barely.
Honestly, has it been 2 years? Seriously?
I'll put it this way. I looked it up, and our Hegemony Part 1 episode was episode 193.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at I think it was 197. Now we're at 222. So we've put out, like, I did the math. We put out like 93 episodes since the last time they put out an episode.
Wow.
It's been almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it's been almost 2 years, honestly. And it's funny because there's only 10 episodes from the last season. Because I told you guys I was going to redo the new season, but I had a lot of stuff happen at work, so I couldn't rewatch season 2. But when I looked at every episode, I remember them so well because there's only 10. And I didn't think it had been that long. And then what you guys are saying, like, well, crap, it's been longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
It has been.
I think part of it is because there's been other Star Trek in the meantime.
Yeah.
So they've been distracting me with other stuff.
That's true.
So if there'd been no Star Trek for 2 years, I think that would be a bigger gap. That softens the blow a bit, but still, like, hey, they survived, turns out. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Right?
So speaking of which, we're talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Hegemony Part 2. Today, will be spoilers. We're not going to do a non-spoiler section. I don't think we're just going to dive in with the spoilers. So if you've not seen it, just listen to it to describe it. It'll be just as good as watching the show.
Right. Just as action-packed.
Yeah. So Keith, were you excited to get back to the Gorn cliffhanger and find out what happens?
No.
Don't start him already on this.
Yeah. Here's the thing about it. Yeah, I have thoughts that may or may not surprise you, but I wasn't excited, but I was definitely interested because I'll tell you what, the first these notes I make on every one of these episodes is, my God, this thing looks good, sounds good, produced well, flows well. I watched both episodes of that Hegemony Part 1 and 2 from the first part from season 2 and this part back to back. Sat on the couch, ate my brunch, watched them without getting up from the couch, and it felt like a movie, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was interested. I wasn't super excited about it.
Right. What do you think, Alan?
Oh yeah, I was excited about it. I was ready to get back to it because there are so many things from that first episode that I've been waiting quite a while to see resolved.
Yeah.
And finally got it. And for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I've got some thoughts. They vary, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. And I've said before that the Gorn haven't been my favorite part of Strange New Worlds. So the Gorn themselves wasn't a huge draw for me, but I am excited to see the show back again. And I thought it was a good resolution. Star Trek is sort of notorious for having those big cliffhangers at the end of the season, the start of the season, that often don't pay off in part 2. Usually part 1 is the good part in a Star Trek cliffhanger. But so I thought they did a good job of resolving it. I thought that it was a good second part. It's a good start to the season. I'm really just excited to see him back.
Yeah. Okay. So since you brought up cliffhangers, my first point that I want to talk about, and I don't think I thought to mention this, 2 flipping years ago, but I have no idea what I said 2 years ago. So I don't remember, but I don't think that I made this point then. Something that I really dislike is the kind of cliffhanger that they did in this story, where the ending is like the camera slowly pulls onto Pike while he's not doing anything, and people around him are saying, "Orders, Captain, Captain, what do we do? Orders, Captain." And he just stands there, and it's like they're leaving you on what is he going to do.
Right.
And I think that is the wrongest way to do it, especially when you're going to have this long of a break. Think back to Best of Both Worlds.
Oh, dude.
When the cliffhanger was they kind of do the same thing. The camera pans up to the commanding officer, which in this case is Riker, and the crew is saying, "Captain, what are we going to do?" And it comes up to him and he says, "Mr. Worf, fire." So the cliffhanger there is that he makes a call, he makes a decision, but you have to wait 3 months to find out what the ramifications of that shocking order are. This, you have to wait 3 months to find out if he's going to do anything or not. And I just don't like that. I don't like them painting him as inactive or indecisive.
Yeah,
Alan,
that was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Charles. Because
that was the thing that annoyed me about that cliffhanger. Then I even made a meme that I shared in like the Dragon Con group that was like, "Need a moment, have a Snickers," and it's like trying to decide what to do because I want the to be decisive. It's like Sweet Kentucky, just like make a decision and do it, and even if it has a weird payoff, just like if it doesn't work out, just go for it. You know what I mean? Like, but I hate like, oh no, now what do we do as a cliffhanger? Like, will Pike make a decision? Will Kirk show up and tell him what to do? Find out next year.
Did you say Sweet Kentucky?
I know.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Are you familiar with Luke Cage, Power Man back in the day? His catchphrase, Sweet Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I still say Jumpin' Jehoshaphat, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Okay, so let me get some comments that came in like while we were doing our intro, and one that came in before we even started.
Okay.
Matt says, "Strange New Worlds is back, baby."
Heck yeah.
And he says, "Listening to the Subspace Rhapsody soundtrack every night while doing dishes kept the plot lines from season 2 active in his brain."
Oh my gosh. The
Mark Webb says, was good to see temporary resolution to the Gorn from season 2 finale? Yes.
We got to talk about that.
Yeah. Elaine loved the whole episode. Matt says this show does do space battles spectacularly. And our buddy Wayne says hello to everybody.
What's up?
Hey.
What's up, y'all?
Disclaimer, I know I bring my preferences and predilections to this, but I look at everything with a completely open mind. So before we get into it, the criticisms I have, I promise you, they come objectively, not because I hate the topic. But it's funny, Alan said something that gets at the heart of not just the episode, but some of my continuing issues with the people who run the new Trek. Okay. Alan, when you said it perfectly, why was Pike standing there confused and the season finale and the cliffhanger? I don't like that Pike, and it bothered me that he did that. Like you said with Riker, that literally is the best cliffhanger in Star Trek history because Commander, what was her name?
Shelby.
She looks at him she had a stunned look on her face. Everybody in the bridge is freaking out, and then he's resolute and gives that thing. Pike is literally standing there, and he doesn't seem to know what to do. And he didn't look resolute. He honestly looked confused. And that's not a captain of, I can't remember if have they rejiggered the Enterprise where it's the flagship now? I forget because
they've sort of retconned that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that they specifically said that on Strange New Worlds, but I feel like they have. But yeah, I mean the Riker decision pays off Shelby's accusation earlier in the episode where she says that you don't have what it takes to make the big calls. Yeah. You see at the end of the episode, he makes the big call and like blows her mind. You know, but this, I mean, with Pike being indecisive, and it goes back to the season 1 finale, which basically was like, what if Captain Pike was the captain during Balance of Terror? We'd all be screwed because
I hated that episode.
Pike makes bad decisions, and so this is playing into that narrative that like,
I've hated
Pike
that
just
episode.
Needs to get out of the way for Captain Kirk.
Yeah, and you remember I hated that episode for that reason because I completely fundamentally disagreed with the conclusion that Pike couldn't handle it because I think, I know, forgive us y'all if we keep going back to TNG, but it was the one, it was a new mold, it was a new everything. You show that Picard has a different style from Kirk and Sisko has a different style from Picard and Janeway has a different, etc. But I think every one of those captains could have handled the situation thrown into it. And to your point, Pike was the first captain we ever had that was kind of said, it was like saying, well, he couldn't have handled a situation. Maybe he would have done it differently. No, he couldn't have handled it. So Alan, it's funny you said that because I wrote that. It's like, why does he have to be so indecisive? And a couple of times, I think because they're trying to make him, now, those of us old enough to remember when men became quote unquote sensitive, like in the 70s and 80s and 90s, that's not a bad thing. Yeah, exactly. But I think they're still trying to make him just a little bit sensitive because there was too many times in the episode, even where he'd lean over and he's like, oh, and he was doing all this weird stuff. I'm like, I love it what Kirk said in the original series with, let's go back to Balance of Terror. Remember he told Bones, he said, Bones, I look around that bridge and everyone's looking at me. And what if I make the wrong decision? But that doubt was in his quarters with his doctor, not on the bridge. And I just had a little bit of a problem with Pike, and that bumped me a little bit about his character. Now he started making some good decisions later, so I will say they redeemed him, absolutely. But boy, I didn't like it at first.
Yeah,
Mark makes a good point. He says that perhaps Pike was distracted given his lover's situation.
Absolutely, but he's captain of a ship, and he needs to get past that. And I'm not usually the guy that's hard on a character, but yeah, I agree with you, Mark. But
yeah, he probably was. But I mean, you're the captain of the starship.
You have to compartmentalize.
You're right, and
you have to.
And if you're going to be compromised by your Starfleet officer, significant other being in a dangerous situation, then maybe you shouldn't have a Starfleet officer, significant other.
Right.
Yes. 100%.
Yes. In TNG, the episode with the Iconians, remember when they discovered the probe that almost destroyed the ship? When they saw the Yamato blow up, and you sat there realizing 1,000 people, including children, just died. There was a scene where Wesley's talking to Picard in his rating room, and he says, I'm having trouble, basically. And he said, you and Riker, Commander Riker and everybody, you just go on like it didn't even bother you. And Picard says, oh, no. We deal with it because we're trained to do so.
Yes.
There will be time enough to grieve later.
Yes.
That's what we didn't get there with him.
Right. And there was a couple of times during this episode that's exactly the thought that I had. And I'm a huge fan of like team-based solution.
Me too.
Finding. I don't know how to say it. But there were times when I felt like he, I don't know, intentionally maybe or not, held back while other people discussed. You know, like he didn't lead the discussion. I don't know. It was a little thing. But
yeah, and I like that he's collaborative, and I like that he respects his crew's opinions. He's going around getting ideas. But Picard did that. Picard was very collaborative, but I never felt like Picard was indecisive.
Right.
So was Kirk. Yeah. For those who this might irritate, please forgive us. We keep going back to other captains. This is like Alan said, I love Pike. It's not a criticism, but balance of terror. Remember, Kirk had a conference, and when Mr. Stiles was blabbing about his racist views, Kirk said, I called this conference to get opinions. And then he made a decision and told him to shut up and follow my orders.
Right. And yes, and if anybody's upset about this, we're only 10 minutes into an hour-long discussion. We have a lot of stuff to say, and I promise you, at least for me, a great deal of it's going to be positive. So
I like this a lot.
I thought you were going to say, I'd be great for an hour for that. We're like, with that decision by Pike just really pissed me off.
We're only 10 minutes in. We have a lot of old Star Trek to compare this to. Stay tuned.
That's right. Let us get it out of our system. We'll move on, I promise.
Right.
Okay, let me get some more comments because maybe this will move us into new territory. Matt says, Kirk never had that conflict because his true love was the Enterprise. There you go. Elaine says, in defense of Pike, if he had just been beamed back on board from the colony and it was complete chaos on the ship, I can kind of understand that he may have needed a moment to figure out what to do. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
I get it. Matt says, did Spock being tasked with helping Chapel with Marie's infection a way to force them together for this episode? Well, of course it was.
Yeah, put a pin in that, Matt, because boy, the number
You're right. We're coming back to that.
Yeah, the number of times I wrote /contrived plot is a lot.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, admittedly, but I mean, if you're going to assign someone to help find a solution, then Spock makes sense.
Of course.
Were they going to send Mitchell down there?
I'm not even sure who Mitchell is, so I don't know.
Okay, and one last comment. Mark says, Pike is a tortured soul, and doesn't he know his own future?
He does.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He does.
That's true.
That's a good point.
That's true.
I'll take that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, speaking of Spock and Chapel,
yes,
I loved the environmental suits that are a direct reference to the old the Naked Time environmental suits. I was a little disappointed that no one took their glove off and touched something and then reached their hand inside their mask and rubbed their nose and then caused a pandemic on the ship like happened in the Naked Time.
Right.
How is it I've seen that episode no lie like 50 times and didn't make the connection to the suits?
And I thought they held up really. I thought it was a really great. But I think those Naked Time suits hold up. People give them a hard time, but I think they look good for environmental suits, not so much for space suits, but for like a hazmat type suit.
That's true.
Yes,
that's very true.
Okay, let me get a comment from Mark here because this is a good one. Mark says, I like that Pike never changed out of his landing party gear, signifying he was ready to fight.
Hey, Mark, I agree with that. I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, and I did like that Pike was determined to take the fight back to the Gorn.
Okay.
And made that case to April.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly where I was about to go with this. Having said all the stuff that I've said about Pike and the indecisiveness, that scene where he and April confront each other and Pike basically insists we have got to do something, because if we don't, we are screwing ourselves over, was a great scene.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite Pike scene in this episode.
Wow, we think alike, because I said the same thing in my notes, Alan, because it's like real life. In real life, we've had quote unquote red lines in the sand. In real life, American Western policy against various people from Russia to Syria and the Middle East. And then one of the things he told him was, if we let them have this line, they'll push the line and push the line. And then one day we're going to be forced to go to war with them. So deal with it now or deal with it later.
Yeah, I really like a conflict where both parties are making excellent points, because April's not wrong that we're outside Federation space. We don't need to pick this fight. Our responsibility is to the billions of people inside our border. And Pike is making the point that, like, no, like, they're seeing us as weak and as prey, and they are coming whether we like it or not. This is our chance to show them that we're not weak.
Right.
I'm going to do it again in the best of both, not best of world, in Balance of Terror. Now, this is a good positive reference. When McCoy agreed with Stiles to attack the Romulans, Kirk said, "Are you suggesting we fight to prevent a fight?" And that's what Pike did here. And you're right. And then that's a different Pike. And I like that Anson Mount. He was decisive. He calls his commanding officer, his admiral, by his first name. They respect each other. That was a tight scene. I love that scene.
Yeah.
You know, I love April's comment that, like, officially, here's your orders.
Yeah.
He's like, unofficially, it's like, go give him a punch in the nose, essentially. Like,
right. And that goes back to a slightly earlier scene where Pike is like, Uhura, what were the orders? And she says, we're to report to these coordinates. But he didn't say immediately. So he's got that loophole. He is looking for loopholes, and I love that moment too.
That's a very Star Trek-y thing too. Of, like, what are the letters? They didn't say when. As long as we eventually end up there, we're following our orders.
But I like I agree with what you guys are saying. I like the respect and the fact that April felt the same way he felt, and he gave him a loophole, because there's that meme on the internet that no police cop or detective in a movie can solve a case until his commanding officer takes his gun and his badge, and they always have to disobey orders. I like that April gave him an order, then unofficially he's like, go take care of this. Because I was actually waiting for him to say, you better not do it under any circumstance, and he gives one of those, I'm going to do it anyway, which is a certain type of thing. And in this case, he's like, okay, here's what I can tell you to do, and then on the other side, I get you. And I love it. Because he gave him cover as well when Starfleet Command says, what happened? Well, hey, we had to do such and such. I love that.
And April's like, I'm one day away from retirement.
Right. That's it, right?
Oh my God, that is so funny. Okay, 2 comments. Elaine says, and you knew that April was going to let Pike do what he wanted / needed to do with the Gorn when April told Pike that the official mission was.
Yeah.
And Matt says, when April stressed officially, we all were looking for the unofficial mission. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And, I kind of feel like, I mean, in that case, yes, that was intentional. But I also think that earlier one where he didn't say immediately probably was, he was indirectly allowing Pike to have that loophole,
Yeah, because what they've done sometimes with some of many admirals, because, there was the whole joke of the badmiral, but with some of these admirals like April, you really feel that this person used to sit in that chair as well. So many of the badmirals in Star Trek were like, they come off as like, did they ever command the starship before? The way they would constrain people. But with April, to your point, Alan, you feel like April's like, I know how you feel because I'd feel the same way. So I'm going to try to do as much as I can to give you an out without going against my own direct orders. So I actually love that.
Let me get this comment from Matt. He says, did Pike steal Jellicoe's catchphrase in this episode? What would that be?
Was it "get it done"? Is that what Jellicoe said?
I don't remember Pike saying that in this episode. He may have.
I don't remember either.
Okay, but speaking of catchphrases, his is "hit it." And They're talking about ramming the Gorn ship, and he says, "Okay, hit it." I wanted him to say, "Hit it," literally.
For real this time.
Yeah.
Let's really hit it.
Right.
Okay. There's something very particular that I want to talk about, and I've got a lot to say about, but I want to save that.
Okay.
So can we jump to the landing, or the landing party / rescue party / colonist situation, and talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Because I want to get to something else, but I don't want to get it right away.
Okay. Yeah, I like Ortega's having quite a bit to do. And
yeah,
and I always like La'an. Yeah, I thought they were great. It was a lot of running around in the Gorn ship.
Yeah,
and
it was.
the Gorn ship is very biological and is like digesting people. You got Sam Kirk was there as well.
Yeah.
You sound thrilled.
What?
You sound thrilled. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. I mean, that's fine. I loved that moment where Ortegas has her freak out over her hand being digested.
Mm-hmm. Heck, I freaked out.
That's gruesome, you know?
I rewound it to see was she joking because I was eating and I didn't miss it, and it looked like she's not joking. Part of her hand's gone. You were eating, so was the Gorn ship. Yeah. And I love him being good. He's like, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Here you go. And then
I know.
Like, give me that whatever. It's not, nobody's ever been like McCoy, who has every cure known in that hypo that he used to carry. But I love the way she missed half her hand, and then like 5 minutes later, she's piloting the ship out of the ship in danger, and she's bleeding and stuff. Ortega's character, the actress, has natural charisma, and so every time she's on screen, I want more of her, and just something about
100%.
her. Yeah.
I wish I didn't know that Ortegas is in the rest of the season, because when that Gorn like impaled her, like that was pretty gruesome, and like that could be a character death moment. And I was like, well, no, I've seen her in plenty of clips. I know that she's.
I thought exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
I was like, well, we saw the trailer, so we know that she gets out of this, and I kind of wish we didn't know that.
Right.
Me too.
What a great moment that was.
Yeah, that was a scary scene.
Yes, it was.
Because I'm thinking that Gorn, if he survived, I can't remember, his buddies are going to make fun of him. It's like, dude, you can't even disembowel a simple human? Seriously? With a strike like that, and he lifted her?
Driving the getaway car 10 minutes later.
Oh, boy.
Now, as far as the Gorn ship and the Gorn thing, I will say I wrote this in my notes. This is very good stuff and very exciting, but I swear I wish they had changed the name of this species, because this is Alien and Aliens Redux. And so much about the Gorn, like I kept writing after a while, this is a monster movie that's on overload. Between the action and the tales and the stuff, it was just, to me, the Gorn was so much a monster movie. Akiva has changed them so much. I really just want them to change the name of the species.
I just want you to know that I thought exactly the same thing on your behalf.
And it's not that I don't like it, but it's just if they've changed the Gorn so much.
Yes.
And then that was just the thing. And after a while, it was a lot of monster movie stuff. Here's the thing, I didn't dislike it, but it just didn't pull me in a lot. Like you guys were saying, the scene with Ortegas pulled me in more than all the fights with the Gorn. And the little twirly ships that I don't understand. The little they spin around. Spinners. Yeah, the digit spinners. I didn't understand that. So for me, the Gorn as a menace that was more subtle, like when they were chasing him in the earlier episodes, is better than this well done, but to me a little bit overwrought action with the Gorn. That's a 100% subjective opinion. I didn't hate it, but it's like when you go see a summer movie, like maybe for some people the Jurassic Park World movies, it's fine, but after a while, so much action, you're like, eh. And that's why I got after a while. The action didn't move me as much as the individual character moments moved me.
Sure. Yeah.
I like that we're getting a lot more of the adult Gorn now. I will say, for all that they've changed the Gorn, the adult Gorn are still pretty goofy looking.
In what way?
Just their face and their perpetual smile and their fish eyes are pretty goofy, and they're very rubbery when they were like getting hit and stuff. Like their texture was just very rubbery. And I was thinking, like, okay, you've reinvented the Gorn,
right?
They're not any less goofy now,
right?
Isn't it interesting that to you they look rubbery, and more so than the original Gorn, which was literally a guy in a rubber suit.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think part of it is that, like, I don't know, they just, like, the way they moved, it just felt less substantial. Then I know that the guy in the rubber suit, but it was like pretty thick rubber. I mean, it wasn't like his skin was. Today I was listening to the new episode of the Delta Flyers, and Armin Shimmerman was criticizing himself for that scene in Little Green Men where he squeezes his nose because it makes it look very obvious that it's fake. And it's a similar sort of thing where, like, they just didn't feel real or substantial. I know that they are. I know that they built physical creatures and people in suits for these things, but then just the way they have the perpetual grin and the fish eyes, they just don't seem any less goofy to me than the old Gorn did. But I actually don't mind that. I don't mind that they're a little bit goofy.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, and I think for someone completely coming into Star Trek new who has never seen the Gorn from the original series, and there's many people haven't, there's not going to have any problems with this. Again, I wouldn't have a problem with if they simply changed the name of the species, because Akiva has said, because he was the one who wanted the Gorn. He loves the Gorn. Akiva at one point said that as far as he's concerned, the Gorn are literally the single most irredeemable species Star Trek has ever done. He wants them to be basically monsters. And I guess at some point we'll figure out we can have some kind of accordance with them. So he wants this 100% monster movies race. That doesn't work for me. But again, that's subjective. So I agree with you guys. I would rather have the other Gorn than this one.
But if that's what he wants, then create a new thing that's based on the Gorn. If he, if he wants, then take the opportunity to create your own Gorn, create a thing that can be, for your new audience, what the Gorn was for you when you were the audience.
Exactly.
Just do exactly all the stuff that you just did. And if you just say it's the Shobogans or whatever, then no one would ever have made a connection to the original Gorn. And then you're doing all the stuff that you want to do, but you keep that connection to the original Gorn separate.
I agree.
And you're protecting your continuity, basically.
I agree. And for people who say, shut up, Keith, about the Gorn, I'm going to say one last thing about the Gorn. I'm going to be done with this, because this is representative. This is representative of the larger feeling I've always had. And that is that there is an assumption that every species that is based on insects or reptiles in science fiction, that when they get things like warp drive and transporters, they're still going to be basically quote unquote evil. We humans are not. So for my feeling is, just because they're reptilian in nature, it doesn't mean that the Gorn, who have technology equal to the Federation, maybe better, would still be this violent kind of species where their babies eat. They could evolve just like us. In other words, the Gorn could be more like the Cardassians, who are also reptilian. So Enterprise, Charles' favorite show, did that a little bit with the reptilians. And I always think, well, just because we humans have a natural aversion to reptiles, the way Kirk says in the original series, doesn't mean that a reptilian species that is on the same level as us would still be vicious any more than we are, quote unquote, still vicious on that level. So that's why, again, I think, Alan, what you said was, even if they had said they're an offshoot of the Gorn, it could have been like they split
even that.
I would have been fine. But for what it was a little much for me, but I didn't hate it. It was fun monster movie stuff. It was just a little over the top, and I got hit so much with the action. I was like, okay, it's fine, but it didn't move me.
I get that. I bellyache about the Gorn being different, but I enjoyed the adventure that they were on.
Right. I just accept it for what it is today, here and now, and I keep it separate in my head from what it was in the 60s, and I just go with it. And I enjoyed the episodes a great deal. And it's a good concept. I just, there was just no need to call it Gorn. Anyway, we're going to move on from that point. I think.
Do we want to
comments? Oh, sorry. What?
You go ahead with the comments.
Okay. Matt says, seeing the landing party in early stages of being digested was interesting. Elaine says, I love Ortegas, and I hated seeing her hand half gone. Yeah,
so does she.
Yeah, right. That was gnarly. Mark says, the landing party will shoot our way out.
Yeah, didn't buy that.
Sure. Matt says, when she said, I fly the ship, it felt like a last words kind of thing. Oh, I didn't think that at all. Man, it's interesting to hear it two different ways.
Right.
I thought it was. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say it was pretty convenient that Sam Kirk had the idea of like maybe anything they can't digest is spat out over here. And they go over there and look, here's some guns. Now we can shoot our way out.
Yeah,
that
I didn't
was
buy
very
that.
quick and convenient, I thought.
I didn't buy that either.
Elaine says, well, my brain sort of blanked out that we had seen Ortegas in the previews and had a minor freak out that she was a goner.
Wow.
She also says, I have a theory about the Gorn. Since they got sent into hibernation by Pike and crew, they had a mutation during that time, and that's why they look like they do. And Kirk fights them in TOS. And also, I think that we are not going to get any more Gorn episodes. I think this is it, because they're going into hibernation, and they're not going to wake up until Kirk's episode, basically. So that's it for the Gorn.
Yeah, but before we get into that, do you want to take a quick moment to do a promo? A quick commercial break, and then when we come back, because we're at the halfway point, we'll get more into the Gorn. And are we getting more Gorn later?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I jumped ahead. All right, hang on. I got to get over to the right tab. Okay, I'm going to play this one.
Hi, I'm Gina Shock from the Go-Go's, fabulous drummer of the Go-Go's.
Hi, this is Tony Levin of King Crimson.
Hi, this is David Fishoff of the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp.
Hi, this is Richard Evans. I am the author of Listening to the Music the Machines Make.
Hi, this is Teresa Kariakis, punk rock photographer.
Hi, I'm Tom Beaujour, author of Nothing But a Good Time, and you are listening to Modern Musicology.
Modern Musicology.
Modern Musicology.
You're listening to Modern Musicology, so, pay attention. You might learn something.
Now, before we get too deep into it again, we did have a message on the Earth Station Trek voicemail hotline that I want to play real quick.
Hi, this is Veronica. Since I can't be there, I want to leave a message on a couple of my thoughts on the first episode. As per usual, I don't have a whole lot of comments, and a lot of my thoughts get prompted from what other people say. But I really liked the little space station thing at the beginning of the opening that seemed to be added this year. I was a little worried that Erica Ortegas was going to no longer be on the show for a brief moment there. And
they got us.
Unsurprisingly, she survived. So that's good. And that's about all I have for this one. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Bye, Veronica.
Thanks for calling in. Yeah, I noticed that the opening had changed a little bit. Did the opening change a whole lot or just a little bit?
They added quite a bit of things to it. On Battle Cruiser showed up at one point. There's a lot of things like that.
Yes. And I was like, well, I haven't seen the title sequence in 2 years. I have no idea what's changed. I know some of it is different, but I'm going to go back and rewatch last year's and just compare. Okay. Comments?
Yeah, I thought some of the opening looked a little CGI heavy, surprisingly. Some of the opening stuff that they added. I thought
in the title sequence, you mean?
Yeah,
or in the
in the title. I thought it looked a little CGI heavy, but it was fun. It was fine. I don't spend my time bumping on the opening sequence.
But something about the title sequence that I do want to comment on is Martin Quinn is now main cast. He's in the opening credits as a main cast member, and I did not see that coming.
No.
I mean, I'm not surprised by that. I just didn't think it was going to happen this quickly.
I didn't notice that.
I
didn't notice that name in there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm going to come back to him, though. We're going to come back to that. That's a big thing for me. But let me is it okay if I get some comments?
Please.
Sure.
Okay. Elaine says, the new Gorn looked like they could have been part of the Zendi.
Yes. Yeah.
Mark says, here today, Gorn tomorrow.
Dude. But
Matt says, Gorn apparently have diplomats, which seems completely incompatible with the monsters we see on screen.
Yeah.
Mark also says, if the Federation is humanoid based, why can't the Gorn be many different reptilian species?
Sure.
Absolutely. And wrapping it up, Matt says, I sometimes think that these adventures they're having in the opening credits might be better than the ones we see on screen.
In my notes, I wrote two things about the opening sequence. It was surprisingly CGI heavy. It looked a little quote unquote fake for me. But the other thing I wrote in there, Charles in the notes, I wrote Charles's name, and I said, per what Charles says, it looks like the opening, they're going boldly more places than the show goes.
Right. It looks like they're going to Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, in the opening, I'm like, oh, they're actually going to Strange New Worlds.
I just want to say, I thought that exact same thing too.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're like mind blocked in this episode.
Yeah. That is so true. Elaine says something real quick, and I swear this isn't a Gorn thing. This is a science fiction thing. The resolution, these things are the resolution didn't work for me. Now, I have a friend who used to run a sci-fi site, and she used to always, when you introduce yourself, she'd say, what are your sci-fi pet peeves? As in, like Alan said last week, what are the gimmicks that you get a little tired of? I personally, subjectively, get a little tired of the gimmick where an entire species can be shut down by like killing the queen or turning off the control signal. Or here I go again. There's a species as advanced as humans, if not more advanced, yet they're controlled by sunlight. That doesn't work for me.
Keith,
I know they're saying it just didn't work for me.
Keith, let me expand on that, because let me tell you what I was thinking during that part of the episode. My head said, don't they have calendars? Don't they know that this is early? Don't they know this thing happened? And wait a minute, that's not supposed to be happening yet. Oh, but I've got to go follow it.
Yeah, I just don't buy. I can't buy that a warp-capable spacefaring species with a hegemony who rule an entire section of the galaxy, the entire species sees some sunlight and they're like, shit, we got to go to sleep. And to your point, then it was fake sunlight. It wasn't even real. It's not like they exploded. It was fake sunlight. But I just don't buy that. It's such a sci-fi trope. I just don't buy it.
For a different reason. We all have our own reason for not liking it.
Yeah.
Because it was the end of Best of Both Worlds Part 2. They sent him to sleep command.
I got that in my notes as well. Yes, they sent them to sleep. And I don't buy it.
I didn't think of that one. I will say that was not one of the thoughts I had.
But they're a spacefaring species.
Yeah.
Right.
So also, does every Gorn everywhere who wasn't in the local area go to sleep? Like, wasn't there a Gorn on the planet 10 light years away who didn't even see the light? Like, dude, what are you doing? Turn around, go back. And then they're like, shit, they fell asleep. Excuse me. Shoot, they fell asleep. Now we got to go send in the second fleet. Whatever.
Yeah.
It drove me crazy.
I get
and
that.
One reason it drove me crazy, because Akiva has spent so much time talking about how the Gorn were basically irredeemable monsters. Yeah. I thought they were going to shock us by having something approaching, some kind of detente, some episode where they're actually going to have to meet with the Gorn and go, oh, they're just as civilized as we are. But then Pike throws in that weird call forward that we didn't need, which is, I think we just created a problem for someone later. What?
Yeah, so are they saying that Arena is the payoff for what they were setting up in Hegemony Part 1, where you started getting hints in that episode that they're not just monsters, there's more to them than that. And I thought that was something that would pay off on this TV show that I'm watching.
Right.
But now are they just putting them to sleep for the rest of this show, and then in Arena we find out that there's more to them than just being monsters?
I think they have to, because I will say, this is something different we can talk about next week or in the Facebook thing. I read a little something I meant to post where, and we'll get to this another time, the showrunners in the recent show said that last season that we just heard about, they're doing a 5th season that's only a few episodes, they asked for that themselves because the network was only going to give them 4. And they said, well, can we wrap up the show, which is basically to bring Kirk on? The network says, okay, how much do you need? And the showrunners, Kurtzman and company, said, we can do it in 6 episodes. We can wrap this up in 6 episodes.
It sounds like Name That Tune. I
can do it
in 6 episodes.
Right. And so they said, this is a story. We can get this done in 6 episodes to hand the torch to Kirk. So to the question you asked, Charles, I don't think the Gorn are going to be part of it, handing the torch to Kirk, because he encounters them again in Arena. So that may be the last we've seen of them, which was weird.
Yeah.
Even for a concept I didn't love, they didn't tie it up the way I thought they would.
Right. And I mean, I guess they're doing better than Discovery. They only got 10 more minutes. So I guess if they got a couple more episodes,
Right.
then we're gaining ground.
Yeah,
that's true. Okay, can we talk about Spock and what's her name?
Chapel.
Sure.
Really quickly.
Mhm.
Okay, so I thought that was an interesting situation, and like Chuck said earlier, of course, Spock is going to be the one who goes down and assists her, and I do like the dynamic that they have, and like the participatory, like problem solving kind of thing. But here's okay. I love that, all that stuff. First of all, the equipment that they used, that they were going to use to suck the babies out of Batel's back, that was really imprecise and kind of goofy. It was like a vacuum cleaner.
It's like the white sound device.
I mean, come on. But then also, you know, here's another trope that bothers me, and that is when you pause, and we've talked about this with Discovery, and you pause to have a meaningful conversation, but the whatever you're waiting for, the test results or whatever, come back exactly as you finish your conversation. But also, you know, we talked about this, like I said, back in Discovery, when they would like pause an action scene for 5 minutes for two characters to have a meaningful conversation. And I was thinking about that during this episode. I was thinking about how one of the ones that bothered me so much was the one at the end of season 2 of Discovery. And then it occurred to me that was a scene between Michael and Spock. The problem is Spock. He's the common denominator. He's the one who's supposed to be the unemotional, logical, and problem-solving kind of guy. And he's the one who has these dumb conversations with people where he's just like a teenage boy who can't figure out his emotions. Now, I get that that's what they're doing. And I think I still think, and I've said this all along, that the situation with Chapel is going to be the thing that brings Spock to who we know him to be later on in the original series and in the Next Generation episodes, that he is becoming that Spock. And it's the Christine situation that's going to help him become that. Still, holy moly.
Yeah,
I just want to talk to you about our feelings. No.
Yeah, I didn't think that worked either because, again, this is not my Spock, and I don't mean like it's bad, but it's their choice on Spock. I think he's younger and more emotional, and then grabbing a hold of his smile a couple of times in the original series, I think they've taken that a little far. So I agree with you, Alan. I thought in the middle of a crisis, he's like, Christine, I'm sorry. Okay, whatever. And then he has to talk again. And then at the end, it was like, oh, she's kind of breaking up with him. And he was still kind of like, well, you think we got the future together? Like that. I don't think I buy that, Spock. It's also weird. They're kind of, to me, painting themselves in a strange plot corner because she's basically saying, look, let's just be friends and we'll see where it goes. And I can't tell you it's good. We've already said this. That's not the same Chapel from the original series because that's a different person. But I agree with you, Alan. I had the same thought and wrote the same note. This is like Discovery. Spock, talk about this later. We got to save that woman. At that point, her belly was bubbling as the creature's getting ready to pop out. He's like, Christine, like, dude, seriously? One of them's going to jump out and land on your head if you don't stop talking. So,
Yeah, if I'm ever full of alien parasites, I hope that people treating me don't have a crush on each other because I don't know if I could take it.
Matt Sweatman comments, Strange New Worlds in a nutshell. When we analyze it, we're always far more negative than how we felt when we were watching it.
True. Yeah.
I will very slightly correct you, Matt, and say I still love this show, but it has enough of the Kurtzman new track vibe that sometimes I don't love the overall product, but I love individual moments and performances and characters. And I think that's where I keep landing on it a lot.
Right. And part of this is simply nothing more than television is made differently. It plays differently to its audience now than it did in previous decades. And that's what a lot of this comes down to. It's just that television has a different function now than it used to have.
And at least,
and that's fine.
That's true. And at least this ain't the CW, because if it was the CW and they were like 20, they might have started making out one of the bio beds while she was
true.
about to pop the things out. They did a couple of things for I think, like you said, to move the plot along, because I found it interesting when they came up with the final solution. She yells, there's no time to do an analysis. But every other time, they literally go, what about this chemical? Hey, computer, what about this chemical? And 5 seconds later, the computer goes, death, 100% death. And then when they get to the final one to amp up the drama, then she goes, well, there's no time to run an analysis. I wrote my notes. No, every time you came up with something, the computer gave you an analysis in like 5 seconds. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, it gave them an analysis in 5 seconds, except for that time that they had to talk about their feelings. Then it took like a minute and a half.
What if somebody hit the reset button? The actress whose name I should know, who plays Captain Patel, I like her.
Oh, yeah.
I really like her. Something about the way she approaches the role is really good. And I love the chemistry she has with Anson Mount. They work as a couple. I don't know why in some ways, but they just kind of work. It's sometimes the way she acts is kind of like, is she really into him? But then her whole thing is, look, we're starship captains and let's see where this goes. I thought it was fascinating, especially in 2025, that Pike was praying to God to save her. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, they did introduce the religious element of his backstory in Discovery, though.
Yeah,
he was talking about how his father was
he was a professor of comparative religion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it made for interesting discussions around the dinner table.
It did. And I can be very confident in saying in the entire history of Star Trek, that is the first and only main captain who's prayed. That's just never happened before. Kirk talked about God.
But Sisko talked to gods. That's
but not that God. Because I remember one time when Sisko's dad quoted the Bible, Sisko goes, Dad, I don't think I've ever heard you quote the Bible. And people like Janeway, when people say, do you believe in God? They go, well, I think there's things we don't know. I thought that was amazing, interesting scene. There's an old joke that everybody gets religion in God, what's the word? In the trenches. Everybody gets religion in the trenches on a plane. Yeah. And I thought that was and then the way he says it was something like, okay, you win, and he starts praying.
Yeah.
That was I didn't expect that at all. But
I don't mind if they bring back the religion versus science element of his character, because that was sort of dropped very abruptly in Discovery. They did it for a few episodes and then we never heard anything about it. And it really all goes back down to on Talos 4 when they had the vision of, the fable you once heard in childhood and he was in hell.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind more exploration of that, particularly as he's grappling with his destiny.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a fascinating character bit.
Yeah.
That you could really do a lot with.
Right.
Yeah, and I think like with the Sisko, of course, dealt with faith too, but not quote unquote Christian faith. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that as you go out in space and as you gain more technology and you find more species, I think a lot of humans will have an existential crisis. When I was in junior high, I had a teacher, very religious, conservative teacher, who one day in class just ranted to the class about how there couldn't be life on other planets. And he literally said, there can't be life on other planets unless Jesus goes to every single planet in the universe and dies for those people. And that was the end of the conversation. And then me being me, I'm kind of like, he got pissed off. I'm like, well, if assuming that's correct, does every species out there need Jesus? I mean, of course, that didn't go over real well. What I meant was, is every species going to have eternal sin? Well, I agree with you guys. I love the fact that Pike is struggling with religion when he's out there. And I think that works. I think it's realistic.
What your professor is saying is that Christ's one death was not enough to save the entire universe.
Yeah, and he literally said that.
That's the fallacy in his theology.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
he's also never seen bread in circuses, because obviously Jesus is out there going to different planets.
Okay, comments. Mark says Spock explored his human side a great deal in his younger years. That is true. You have a great point there, Mark, and I appreciate you making that. And that is true. Okay. Mark says, hearkening back to your religion and Trek episode, I love the scene when Pike dropped to his knee and started to, that we just talked about that. I never thought I'd see a scene like that in New Trek.
Same here, Mark. And it was powerful.
Matt says, well, if you have to run a simulation in a holodeck with a lusty engineer, I guess they didn't have time to look for that sort of thing. Andy Lane says, I really love that scene with Pike and Marie at the end. That chin quiver that he had when he telling him that didn't want to lose her just about did me in. All right. Ready for my topic?
Ready.
Yeah.
Okay. We got to talk about Pelia and Scotty.
Good. I've been waiting.
All right. this is my favorite part of the episode. Even though everything else about it was really good, this is my favorite part. All right. What I have been hoping for ever since we got the introduction of Scotty at the end of the last episode, I was hoping that what we were going to see would be a mentor/mentee situation where Pelia takes Scotty under her wing and he kind of slowly becomes the Scotty that we know him to be.
Right.
And we get a little bit of that in this episode. And I just want to say that there's two scenes that I absolutely loved, and they may be my favorite scenes in the episode. And that is the first one where she rags him because he didn't keep notes on the thing he was doing. And he's like, the Gorn were shooting at us. There was nothing I can do. And she says, no, you always do it. And this is the reason why, because we have to recreate a thing that you did. And now we can't recreate it. And I loved her in that scene, but I also loved, like, he's getting a lesson. And she says, it was just like when you were in the lecture hall, you were never there. And he's like, I was there. I was in the back. And it's that teacher student relationship that I really love and was hoping we would see some of. After that, he's trying to figure it all out, and she comes in the room frantic. Oh my God, we're all gonna die. The Gorn are here, and they're gonna kill us all. And he's like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And he fixes the thing. And then she just looks at him like, yeah, I knew you'd do that.
Yeah,
I loved that scene. Now, from that point on, there's this shift where all of a sudden Pelia takes a back seat to Scotty, and you know, Pike calls her to the bridge. Pelia, I need you on the bridge. Pelia and Scotty come to the bridge. Scotty does all the talking. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to give up Pelia yet. I know he's main cast and she isn't, but I want that situation where she's still, and you know, we had that moment where he's like, got all crying and pouting. He's like, you're not my commanding officer because she died on the ship or whatever. And he storms out of the room. And I'm like, that's a good scene. And she's clearly has an emotional attachment to him. And she clearly was really feeling for his situation. But then after that, it was just like this tonal shift in the way that the two of them are presented. And I did not feel comfortable with that at all.
So you can see them shifting toward bringing him on, as you were saying.
Oh, 100%. And like way too quickly.
Good analysis.
Far quicker than I wanted. I still want to see more of that, like that shepherding kind of relationship between them, where she is kind of showing him what it means to be a Starfleet main engineer.
And becoming Scotty shouldn't be an episode. So I'm hoping that that'll be a thing that continues on, because I love that scene where Pike's coming down there and Scotty's ready to tell him, like, I'm so sorry, Captain, we just can't do this.
Yes.
And Pelia's like, how quick do you need it? And he's like, 6 hours or we're all dead. And she's like, you got it. And like, that's a lesson for Scotty. Like, we don't have a choice. We're making this work.
And she turned and she said that to Pike. Pike walks out of the room and she turns to him and she said, you see?
Right.
That was great. That was great.
What I thought they were a little heavy-handed when she analyzed him and basically said, you can't seem to function unless you're under a crisis. I thought that was an unnecessary. Scotty always does it it didn't work for me.
I didn't find it that way at all, but that's interesting that you.
Yeah, it was too much of an easy callback, because she said basically when you have too much time in your hand, you fall apart. But when you're in a crisis and you're rushed, then you like, okay, we get it. He's a miracle worker. To me, that didn't work for me.
A little prequely.
Yeah, it was too much.
Right.
Alan, that's an excellent analysis. I didn't even think about with him and Pelia. And that shit. I didn't even think about that, because there's something else Charles said, and I agree. Scotty is too young, but I like that actor. But I like that actor. So that's an excellent analysis of him and Pelia. I didn't even think about that.
It might not even have occurred to me, except that I absolutely love Pelia. She's up there as far as like favorite characters on this show for me. I love her, and I'm not ready to see her in someone else's shadow yet.
Because I wonder, because she's immortal and stuff, is one day she's just going to say basically it's time for me to go and let you have it, because I guess she'll make it her own choice.
She has moved on to so many other situations in her past. She'll move on to something else here, and that's going to leave the room for Scotty to become Scotty. But not yet. Come on, not yet. Or she's going to get killed in the middle of the season.
Right.
Anyway, Mark says, I wanted Scotty to be introduced fully formed, where Scotty actually schools his teacher.
Okay. Mark, you're expressing the
interesting
feeling I have, which is this is not wrong. It's just a little different for me in some ways, in some areas. So that's a subjective. Nothing they've done is wrong, just slightly different. So I like that.
And Elaine says, I love Pelia and Scotty together. She is a great mentor to him. And that scene where she freaked him out was hilarious.
Yeah.
I did love that scene.
Yeah, they have good chemistry too. I'm hopeful that there's going to be a season at least of these two playing off each other, and it's not going to be like you. I can see what you're saying. That does seem very abrupt at the end, but hopefully that's not the end of the like origin story of Scotty. I'm hoping that'll be an ongoing thread.
Me too. That's exactly what I want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, that was a fun hour.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, the thing I always want to come on in is talk about my complaints about the episode and just complain about Star Trek for an hour. But I really did enjoy it. I think that it was a fun action adventure.
Yeah.
Lots of running around and being chased by Gorn and things like that. And I liked Pike taking the fight back to them. And yeah, okay. One more thing I want to say, and I almost never make commentary on the ladies' haircuts on the show, but it looked like Uhura has her new haircut hidden under her old haircut, and
it's not the same thing. Yes,
like the continuity of her hair changing would have been less distracting than whatever they had going on there. And I know that none of the ladies need me especially to comment on their hair choices, but I found it a little bit distracting.
No, I did too, because they caught her at a certain angle and it just looked like her head was weird shaped.
Yeah,
because they're stuffing all that stuff into a cap basically.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
I wasn't alone.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Okay.
I think for me, I wrote down when I finished, this reminds me, the whole two-part, because again, I watched it back, it reminds me of a summer blockbuster. That's fine, but not one that I have a desire to go see back again. Okay. It was fine. It was the Gorn and the action was a little bit bludgeoning me. It's like I didn't really care about the Gorn and all the action, but there were so many moments with Ortegas and with Pike and Patel that worked for me. I came away more excited to see the character growth and what comes next than I did, to ever see. But again, and also 100%. Everything about the production value was amazing. The look, the cinematography, the music. I don't pay attention to music much in new Star Trek like I used to in the original series. The soundtrack was kicking. So
that's Nami Melumad, who we had on our show.
Yeah, she was a wonderful guest.
We should see if we can get her back.
Yeah, she was delightful.
That would be fun.
Oh, I love her.
We'll be back on Monday
night.
A special time for a very special episode.
Oh, don't say that. A very special episode.
Which one of us is addicted to painkillers? You'll find out on Monday. Because two episodes dropped today and we didn't want to rush it. So I haven't even seen episode 2 yet of the season.
I haven't either.
Yeah. And what is it? Wedding Bell Blues? Is that
Wedding Bell Blues? Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So we'll be talking about that on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So I hope folks will come join us.
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Eastern. I have my apologies.
I work till 8. I don't get home till 8:30.
Right.
Okay. We'll be 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday. And if you want to be like Veronica and have a voicemail on the Earth Station Trek hotline, you can call us at 307-387-1701. That's 307-387-1701. And a voicemail will pick up. There's a little cute little message from Veronica, and you can leave your thoughts on the show if you'd like to hear yourself on the show. And if you don't like what we're saying, feel free to call in and disagree. And just try to keep your messages concise, please.
And I also want to say, since we haven't really talked about it too much in a while, we've got this book. Okay, this graphic says coming April 2025. April 2025 was a couple of months ago. So this book is out and it's available. And it is Earth Station Trek Guide to Star Trek. And a lot of what we were talking about tonight, like religion and Star Trek and stuff, is addressed in this book. We each do a series of chapters about our thoughts on different elements of the Trek verse. And I think you should go pick it up because I really think it's a great book. And if you do, or if you have already read it, please go to Amazon or Goodreads or wherever and leave a review for us. We would really, really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, please do. So we can do a second book where I can rant about putting aliens to sleep.
There you go.
All right, Keith, where can people find more of you?
You can find me on Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups.
And how about you, Alan?
Well, you could go to cosmiccreative.com, KOZMIC creative.com, and you can see all my books and podcasts, one of which is Modern Musicology. And our current episode is celebrating the 40th anniversary of Live Aid. And we released the episode this past Sunday, which was the day of the 40th anniversary.
Wow.
And we all talk about our memories from that day and seeing it. You know, none of us were there in person, but we all experienced it live, you know, in broadcast on the day of, and our favorite moments from the concert and, you know, all that stuff. And then our next 2 episodes are going to be every year we do anniversary shows where we talk about the albums released 40, 30, and 20 years ago. And so our next 2 episodes are going to be the albums released in 1985. And we have got a slew of things to talk about in those episodes. So I hope that you'll dive into our Live Aid episode, which is currently out, and stick around for our next 2 about 1985.
Okay. And you can find Veronica and I at feltnerdy.com or Felt Nerdy across social media, or Felt Nerdy and Dirty for our adult content. Or you can find us on your favorite podcast platform with Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys. And did anyone have a closing for us this week?
I'll repeat myself. A line I did love was "Hope is a choice." That was very Star Trekky, and I really loved that line and what it said about Pike. Hope is a choice.
There you go.
Perfect.
There you go. All right. Take care, everybody. See you Monday
all.
night.
Thanks for all the comments.
Yeah, thank you all so much for participating. We really appreciate
Yes.
getting your comments during the show. It makes it lively for us. All right. Take care, y'all. See you Monday.
Bye.